exhausted. But I mean, the day after that, we went rock climbing with our other group, and we split into two groups, and there's staff that like helped us through it. So I mean, they're belaying us the whole time though. So I went up to this. If you don't know what Montana looks like, it's really beautiful. I mean, the trees smell like vanilla, sometimes lemon. I mean, the sky is just clear, like never clouds. There's never clouds, and it's so dry that when it's 90 degrees outside, it feels like 70. So I mean, it's just like paradise out there. But anyways, we have to hike up to this climb, right? And I get to the top of the mountain, and there's staff there, and one of them's named Josh, and he had, I would say, the biggest impact on me spiritually. And I'm not going to talk about each climb because I did a lot of them. I was like relentless with these climbs. But if you don't know this about me, I'm extremely scared of heights. So like doing these climbs was a big deal for me, especially getting to the top. So when I went on these climbs, Josh would be belaying me, and then I would like stop right before the top, and I would be like, I can't go any further. And he's like, and he would always shout, because I was so high up, but I mean, he would always shout, what's stopping you from making that next step? And I would always answer, it would be a different answer every time, mostly fear. And I would always get to the top, and when I got down, it was just like the most amazing feeling. And at the end of the day, we would gather in little groups, and we would have talks and reflect about the day. And in each of these groups, there would be a wide range of conversation. He would ask us all sorts of kinds of questions, and it would be amazing. But the conclusions that I arrived to, I'm going to be talking about me personally this day. I'm sure the people talking tomorrow will have different conclusions, but for me, I think that it was more about comfort zones, because living out here is very easy in some ways. It's very hard in other ways, and there's a lot of pressure here. But I think, at least for me, that when I wake up in the morning, I eat, I get dressed, and then I take the path of least resistance throughout the day, and then I go to sleep, and then watch, rinse, repeat. And when I went out there, the path of least resistance was terrifying. So it really pushed me. Like, fear, there's a different fear basically each day that I'd have to push. Like, there'd be inclines on these mountains. I hate inclines. And some of these climbs would be really tall. It's just different things each time. And at the end of the day, when I was reflecting, Josh helped me conclude that it's really comfort zones that I was breaking that made me feel alive in the moment. And that's just one of the lessons I learned there. I'll explain more later, and it's a role it had on me, it's had on my lessons. So the second thing I would like to talk about is what was it? So when we arrived at Bighorn, in a Christian camp, it was beautiful too. It was like in between two huge mountains, and the people there were amazing. But on our last night, Tom, this director there at Bighorn, came and gave a sermon to us. And he talked about something that I wasn't really exposed to before, and the whole time I was wondering, where is this going? Like, is this even going to make sense? But at the very end, it kind of like dawned on me. So what he was talking about was fearing God. And I was like, fearing God? Well, fear isn't a good thing, right? But what he was really talking about there is that you fear basically the judgment of who your authority is. And back here, living the way I was, my highest authorities were not God. I'll just be completely honest with you. I mean, I'm obviously Christian and all that, but I was not living with God as my ultimate authority. And that influenced my decisions and the way I was living my life. So, what it means to fear God is to essentially like fear his judgment he has on you. And if you fear the judgment of somebody or something, whoever it is, whatever it is, then you're going to live out your life trying to get the best view for that thing, right? So I was living out my life like for, I don't know, my teachers, my parents, and all that, which is great. That's a great way to live your life. But I was living for them and not as much for God. And if you live for God, then you'll also be living for your parents and your teachers and your authorities and all of that. But it'll be for a greater purpose, and that's the most important part. So when I came to this realization that I was not living for God, I was kind of devastated. I was like, man, I've been so ignorant for all my life. Like, what have I been doing? But at the end of the day, I started reading my Bible, and then the next day I read more of my Bible, and more and more and more. And then it kind of like, it just really changed my purpose, I would say, because my purpose was not the same before I read the Bible. And I'll get more into that in a second. But your purpose drives you to be whoever it is you're going to be at the end of your life on your deathbed. And I think that your purpose really influences the decisions you make. And if your purpose is to please your authorities, and those authorities are teachers and stuff, then you're going to live out your life that way. Now, my life is more focused on God. I'm still obeying my authorities and all that. It's not like I'm a rebel now, but yeah, so my purpose is completely shifted. And you start viewing situations differently, and you start making decisions differently. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't be up here right now if I didn't go on this trip, because I'm afraid of public speaking. I'm like terrified. It might not seem like it, but I am right now. But I mean, yeah, it's just all about purpose. And all this is leading somewhere, don't worry. So the last thing, we're in Spokane, and we're at Cup of Cool Water, and you saw a couple pictures. But I think what you didn't get to see was the people that were there, and it's depressing, but it was also a great, like, it lit my passion, essentially. So when we were over there, we help out with food for the first day. Like, we split into two groups. One group goes over to the bike shop and starts helping with their bikes that they give to the homeless. And then it's a big homeless shelter, if I didn't make that clear for you guys. But I was in the group that was helping with food, and we just like haul like truckloads of food like for 2 hours. It was very tiring. But at the end, it felt so great. And when we walked back out there, you just see, well, you'd be passing by every time when you walk up these stairs to the storage room, and you'd see all the people there that you're helping. But the first day, my like initial take on the place was, it was great and all, right? But my passion wasn't lit yet because I didn't help these people directly. And so yeah, I was still very unchanged in that way. The next day, we make sandwiches for everybody, and well, as many people as we could, but we made like probably way more than 50 sandwiches. Like, it was a lot of sandwiches. And we just went out there and just started handing out baggies with like the sandwiches, some oranges, like fruit bar. I felt pretty proud about it. But when we were out there and we were giving it to people, the smiles you would see on their faces were just like, you knew you actually touched. Like, you can tell the difference between a fake smile and a real smile, and those were just like, those were amazing. And I gave this bag to, I believe it was a prostitute, and she had herpes on her. And the smile, like, she started a conversation with me. And I just noticed how fortunate I was to be in the position that I'm in right now, because she was in a point of her life where she's desperate for money, desperate for resources, and when I gave that back to her, she was so happy that she just wanted to talk to me for hours. I obviously couldn't because I had to give more lunches to other people. But in talking to her, I'm like, man, there's people out there who are so much less fortunate than we are. And they're just struggling to make it. And what that made me realize was what basically I was meant for. Because in the Bible, it does tell you to help the homeless, obviously. But in real, when I did this for those people, it just made me realize that I really need to change my ways. So my path has already shifted at this point, and I've understood how to do it, which is breaking through my comfort zones. But what's not there is the passion. And in that moment, I found my passion, and that's to really help people. And that is the most valuable thing for me right now. So, in conclusion, for me, I'd say that this trip has been a huge influence on my life, because I would have been living for approval of other people or peers. I would have been living for materials, and I would have lived my life as a Christian, but my path would not be the potential it had to be. So this trip shifted all that, it changed all that for me. And I just think that's so valuable. There's really nothing that can do that for you, I think. It's not till you're out there that you notice what your purpose is. I could have seen videos on YouTube of other people helping people. It wouldn't have been the same thing. When you're on those streets, that's when you really feel. So, yeah, I'm going to leave you with that.